Lockdown. The Rosetta mission makes history. The European Space Agency has successfully landed the first ever spacecraft on a comet. More controversy over the TTC. Commuters are stuck on a train for an hour, then escape through the tunnels.
Your attention, please. Your attention, please. This is a test of the lockdown procedure.
And it's lockdown week at Humber College. The Department of Public Safety tests how prepared we are in the case of a serious threat. Hi, and welcome to Humber News. I'm Earl Labalahan, coming to you from our newsroom here at Humber College North Campus. Today for the history books, scientists have landed a spacecraft on a comet. The European Space Agency celebrated their historic landing, the first ever satellite to ride on a comet. A landing robot called Philae spent 10 years attached to the side of the spacecraft Rosetta during their journey across the solar system. The historic mission began its 7-hour descent to the surface of the comet 67P early this morning. Scientists weren't sure about the makeup of the comet, so they didn't know whether the lander would hold on. Two young men are dead after a small plane crashed in Algonquin Provincial Park. A Cessna similar to this one left Buttonville Airport and was scheduled to travel to St. Hubert, Quebec. Officials say the pilot declared an emergency at 8:30 last night before traffic controllers lost contact with the plane. Both victims were reported to be in their 20s. The cause of the crash is still being investigated. Winter has made an early arrival in many parts of Canada and the U.S., but in Minnesota, yesterday's onslaught of ice and snow became deadly, and this morning the snow continued to fall. Fierce winds and snow created a nightmare for commuters. As much as 30 centimeters fell in some spots. Police say it was caused more than 100 car crashes, including 2 fatalities. The cold snap is being caused by Super Typhoon Niguri. Environment Canada meteorologist Jeff Coulson says the cold is all over.
The trend itself seems to be pretty stubborn, and a few of the models I've been looking at are hinting at colder than normal temperatures on average through the rest of the month of November and even into the first part of the month of December. And to put that into context for us here in the Toronto area, normal highs for this time of year should be about 7 degrees Celsius, and we're going to be struggling with daytime highs more around 2 or 3 degrees over the course of the next week or so.
We'll tell you how cold it's going to get in the GTA coming up in our newscasts. Molten lava from a Hawaiian volcano is threatening more homes on the Big Island. The lava destroyed an abandoned home on Monday, the first since 2012. The nearest home is now about 400 meters away. Lava from Kilauea destroyed over 180 residents between 1983 and 1990. To Ottawa now, where Canada's finance minister has just delivered his fall fiscal update. In it, Joe Oliver is promising to balance the books next year. He says taxes will continue to be cut and the 2015 surplus will be smaller than expected at $5.5 billion. Overseas now, the Royal Air Force's Tornado Squadron has left Afghanistan after flying its final missions. The British fighter bombers have been stationed in Kandahar since 2009 to support NATO forces. They're leaving now as the international missions in Afghanistan winds down. The Tornadoes will continue missions in Iraq to support troops on the ground. Back at home, the TTC is apologizing for leaving passengers stuck on a subway for an hour Monday night. It happened during rush hour, and commuters were forced to walk along the tracks to get out. The breakdown wasn't reported until last night when the video was posted by one of the passengers. Thousands were trapped between Museum and St. George stations. The TTC had to cut power to a section of the track. Spokesman Brad Ross says it was beyond their control. It's lockdown week here at Humber College, and emergency drills are happening across all campuses. Students, faculty, and staff were put to the test this morning to see if they were prepared for the worst. Rebecca Hamill has the story.
Humber's yearly lockdown drill takes effect today. 10:10 a.m. has been the set time every year approved by the Dean Council. The lockdown has been in effect the last 6 years at the Humber College North Campus and 5 years at the Lakeshore Campus.
Fortunately, we've not had to actually lock down the campus, so that's good. But it's, preparedness is key. We want people to know that we have a protocol and procedures in the event that we ever had to lock down, so that they, if they hear the messaging, they understand what it is. And it gives us an opportunity to test our PA system, test our emergency communications, and ultimately people's knowledge of what to do.
During the 10-minute exercise, Toronto Police and security are on site to help evaluate and provide assistance when needed. Windows are to be covered, doors locked, barricaded, lights turned off, and cell phones on silent.
The drill took place. I mean, there was some authority in certain areas. We did have police officers in certain spots where there was heavy population, and for the most part, people did participate. But there were some areas that maybe could use a little bit of work, and that's understood, of course, because they didn't know, they probably didn't listen to the announcements properly or whatever it might be.
Once the lockdown is complete, a debriefing meeting takes effect to discuss any observed issues and concerns. I'm Rebecca Hamill, Humber News.
University of Toronto students and environmental activists are protesting the end of use of fossil fuel. The group marched to the president's office earlier today, demanding an end to any ties with oil corporations. Our reporter Ainsley Smith joins us live from the U of T campus. Ainsley?
Hi, Earl. As you can see, today's protest has come to an end. But the campus streets were flooded with students and environmentalists, both with the same goal, to lower the school's overall use in the fossil fuel industry. Today marks the first attempt of the school to divest its funding away from the fossil fuel industry. The protest was led by Toronto 350 and U of T 350, and the groups were aiming to lower the carbon emission use in the air. Over the course of the next week, a formal committee will be meeting to discuss the initiative's outcome. This means U of T could take millions of its invested dollars from its endowment fund and place the money into investments elsewhere. I am joined now live with Ben Donato Woodger, Operations Director of Toronto 350. Ben, can you tell me what happens next for this initiative?
So we're going to continue pressuring students and the governing council to divest from fossil fuels. We want them to get their money out of fossil fuels, to get fossil fuels out of Canada, and to show that students can take real leadership on climate change.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben. If this initiative is successful, the University of Toronto will make a huge environmental impact. It will also change the Canadian landscape of student rights with involving environmental change. I'm Ainsley Smith reporting live from the University of Toronto. Back to you, Earl.
Thanks, Ainsley. When we come back, we'll tell you what's happening in the world of sports, and Marielle Torfranca will have your 3-day forecast.
Today may feel like quite the shock after yesterday's beautiful weather, but it's time to gear up for the transition into below freezing temperatures. We'll have your 3-day forecast after the break.
But first, it's not often athletes cross over to other sports. But at the Raptors Remembrance Day game last night, this athlete showed basketball fans how to play something different on home turf.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Canadian tennis superstar Jeannie Bouchard.
The Raptors mascots did his best Bouchard impression as the two faced off in a match. Bouchard defeated the mascot and added another win on the hard courts. She signed a basketball and tennis ball before lobbing them out to the stands.